This is going to be a look at one concept that I hope the Ravens hold over or keep from the Greg Roman offensive era, and it's what I call counter windback. In some cases, you could call it counter option if Lamar is in fact reading the D end from the side where the linemen are pulling. We're going to let 3 or 4 of these plays run. I think I have 8 queued up total. Uh, Typically, when Lamar was reading out of the pistol option, I think obviously 2019 set historical records for the league and for the Ravens franchise and won Lamar an MVP. But when you're talking about reading the pistol option, I feel like, and I have said this in numerous videos, that it's somewhat limited based upon, the quarterback opening here, at least at first, initially, 2019, 2020, 2021 as well, meant that the attack side was going to be to this, the top side of the field, the top side of your screen, I should say, the left-hand side of the offense. So the Ravens at some point began to run counter, I called it counter windback if I didn't think Lamar was reading it. I called it counter option if I thought he was reading it. He certainly appears to have his helmet looking here, but you can generally tell when you're blocking the read man or what would be the read man, he's not being read, so it's just a called give. That's why I have this labeled counter windback. You guys can't see it, but off screen up at the top from the online database that we try to upkeep, I've got all the information here with a gain of 9 yards. All right, same gain against the Saints. And this is the version that I hope really is a holdover for the Ravens because there's a couple of elements here. Number one, you do have Pat Ricard going left to right. So historically, under Greg Roman, when Lamar Jackson was at quarterback, the attack side, if it was going to be option, was going to be here, meaning Ricard was going to motion, read the end man on the line of scrimmage, just like Lamar does. And then if Lamar decides, if it's a keep read, meaning the DN comes down the line, then Ricard would loop around, go get probably the front side inside linebacker. Lamar would keep it and run around the edge behind Ricard's block. It would look like, people have different names for the technique. It would look like a called play, and it would not be. In this case, I don't think this is a read. I think this is just counter windback. There's no way that it can be a read. Why? This is the guy who's left unblocked. Lamar theoretically could be reading this guy, and this is the element of the play that I love. You have Ricard and linemen pulling to the offense's right. Certainly a lot of flow in that direction. And then this guy likely is now reading this D end with Lamar. So this is the element of the play that I hope is a holdover. And I'm not necessarily focusing on Ricard here. I'm focusing on the fact that historically, wherever the fullback goes, Ricard is where the football goes. Now they've replaced Ricard with likely. After this win against the Saints last year, I was really excited because I think there was 2 instances, and maybe we'll see them in this film. To be upfront, I have sorted this film by yardage. So the way that my database goes, if I sort 9-yard gains, 8-yard gains, and 34-yard gains, it's going to go 9, 8, and then at some point down 30, 34 because it looks, just looking at the first number, I know that sounds pretty ridiculous. I don't think it's formatted correctly. But in any case, so you are getting good gains here. There's not a ton of 1 and 2 yard gains in this cut up, but they are there from last season. The thing that excited me was they put likely in position to potentially read a D end with Lamar. You have all this action to the play side. Lamar ends up giving it, and just so you know, he can see the D end out of the angle of his helmet. I don't know what angle you prefer to talk or tell a kid about. Some people would say 45. Some people, I've heard a guy say 60. The point is not to put your face mask directly at the D end because you've got to have your shoulders pointed towards the mesh. And if your face mask is pointed here, that's where your shoulder's going to be. You can mess up the mesh. But anyway, there's a lot more detailed explanation than that. And people who can give a better explanation than I can. What excites me is you have the fullback going one way. And then, in this case, likely is the fullback reading this D end, potentially looping around him, and Lamar keeping it, which is just the mirror image of what I drew up a couple of moments ago when I initially talked about counter option. I do not believe Lamar is reading this. I think this is a called give, but there's plenty of times where he is giving it. You'll get an end zone angle, look at the same play. And this is one of the things that disappoints me about football evaluators sometimes. They'll say, Lamar only reads it about 30% of the time. Sometimes it's a called give. How the hell do we know? How do we know what the play call was? We don't know, and PFF doesn't know either. The point for me is I hope this is one of the main holdovers from the Greg Roman era. the counter option, counter windback. The problem is it's a little hypocritical of me to say that because I have said before I do not want us to be in the pistol that much. Here's an example of pistol trips, and you got Ricard as the slot tight end. I don't think this was tremendously effective against the Bengals. This play, however, goes to the Ricard side, and the back goes to the Ricard side. It's a keep, however, by Lamar around the edge. The cool thing about option coaching is sometimes you can look at a player, in this case this D end, and say, I just don't think he's capable of tackling our guy. So the counter element is here. Lamar opened to this side. You have the lineman pulling here, and then JK going back to that direction behind that pulling lineman. They had to do this. Greg Roman had to do this because when the option was only going to the side that Lamar opened, the two threats were to the same side. It was easier, simpler for linebackers, D-ends, even nickel safeties to be able to step down and then run inside out and help contain on Lamar. Contain's the wrong word. Help control Lamar because you had multiple players running on inside out angles and then someone on a force angle. Yes, Lamar was able to make people miss at times, but this is an example, if you ask me, of what the Ravens had to do under Greg Roman to try to keep this pistol offense effective, and it certainly was with the run. Limited against the pass, however. I don't think that Todd Monken is going to be in the pistol a ton, but these plays are effective. Again, some of them are sorted by gain. I only wanted to give you guys 8 of them. This is the element, I think, of the offense that I would like to see retained. This is different from the one that I showed you earlier, where Likely's feet were on Lamar's right, and then he was going in this direction, potentially reading that D end. In this case, there is no Isaiah Likely. There is no other fullback in the backfield. You have Ricard going, essentially, we would call this super counter in our system, but it's basically power. Ricard is kicking out the D end. You have the guard powers wrapping to the linebacker, and you got everybody blocked up because it's 22 personnel. And you got an extra tight end to the side. Monken is not going to be in these compressed formations, but I would like to see him be in some spread looks like this one. And the key thing for me is this does not have to be Patrick Ricard. Mark Andrews can do this. Isaiah Likely can do this. You can run the counter windback with those guys. It's an unbelievable run by JK. Look at the hit by Von Bell. I mean, and this is only a 6-yard gain. I believe the Ravens have out-formationed the Bengals. Look at the hit that you've got here. JK's able to hold his feet, hold up, and then the second player is the guy who knocks him down. I think it's Woozy. I think I give you the end zone angle of this one. I do not. All right, a counter windback example with Ricard in the backfield. Really, this is just power. This is mislabeled. This is Ricard taking you to the play, kicking out the D, and this is mislabeled. This should not be counter windback. The only difference is that Lamar's opening opposite. So theoretically, he could be reading this guy, but you can see that D end is being blocked by Andrews, so there is no read. If he was unblocked, then theoretically there could be a read. So that one's mislabeled. Forgive me for that. This one again is labeled counter windback. I think we got Boyle in the game. Yeah, when I called it counter windback all year, I was saying that because I didn't think we were reading it on the play. Generally, when we were reading it, we would have a fullback here, and he would be looping in the opposite direction for where the running back is veering the play. For me, I've got to think that Monken can find a way to do this out of a more typical shotgun look, but it is difficult. And when I say that it is difficult, what I mean is if you put the back on this side here, it's a little bit different angle for the, you're not getting a wind back per se, because when he lines up on the offense's left, the top side of our screen, generally most running plays for a running back who's on this side are going to the opposite side. It's somewhat difficult, challenging to do what's called same side runs, meaning the running back would be on the top side, or Lamar's left in this case, and the run play would go to the top side, to the same side where he lined up. The pistol allowed Greg Roman, or actually in some senses forced him to now open Lamar opposite for the play direction. One more example of Isaiah Likely being in the backfield and going opposite and Lamar keeping it. This is the element for me that I thought was overused early in games. It only goes down as a 6-yard gain. You got Ricard going here in motion. You've also got 2 pulling linemen. So the potential for, someone to call it super counter, kick out block, pulling lineman. But then Likely is in the backfield again, reading the D end with Lamar. It's a dual read. In this case, the D end slams down. So that's a pull read by Lamar. But give defenses credit. And the Bengals kind of wrote the blueprint on this. The Steelers did it as well. They'll blitz a nickel defender and run him at Lamar while running the D end down. Essentially, what they're doing is they're forcing a keep read by Lamar, and then they're running a player right at him to potentially tackle him. Well, we've got a blocker now, Isaiah Likely, to take him on, get in his way. Lamar keeps it. Only ends up being a 6-yard gain. I hope this is a play that's kept in the playbook, that's utilized later in games. Don't want to see this concept overused. I think this is a Super Bowl winning play, and here's what I mean by that. I think this is a play that you can win a game on in the AFC playoffs, the AFC Championship game, or the Super Bowl when you need to score on a 3rd and 4. This is a potential play that you can use to score, but not if you've shown it 18 times during the season. I think it's got to be a play that you've shown 6 or 8 times total. And there's other play concepts that would apply to that, maybe, could be used more so. But this read, I think, is damn near impossible for the defense to deal with when you're in a too high safety structure and you've got 2 wideouts. You're talking about at least -4 defensively in the box, so a 7-man front. In this case, it's a 7-man front with a nickel defender there. Ravens are able to read it correctly with Likely and Lamar. Get him blocked. Likely can do that. Kolar can do that. Pat Ricard can obviously do that. I'm not sure that he'll be active on a weekly basis. You guys let me know if you have the same opinion. I don't think there's 6 play concepts that I'd like to see be holdovers or Monken Roman mashups, I guess. This is definitely one of them for me. This is the best example, I think, because you have Ricard or some tight end moving right to left, 2 pulling linemen, in this case Linderbaum and Moses. And then in opposite flow, you've got the tight end lined up at fullback. And this is what tight ends are asked to do. Tight ends are asked to be fullbacks occasionally, doing it the way that Roman did it, asking a fullback, Ricard, to be a tight end at times. You can accomplish that task as well. I just feel like the execution on some of the tight end style blocks wasn't as effective, but that's a topic for another video, or maybe actually that's one that's already been overkill. One of my favorite concepts, counter option. First saw it, I thought, against the Colts in 2020 on the road, game the Ravens won, I think 24-9. Maybe I'm wrong there. I thought it was a devastating play, running Ricard away from the flow, lineman pulling in the opposite direction. In this case, Likely is filling the Ricard role. I think Likely's got to be on the field more. Kolar's got to be on the field more. Andrews has clearly got to be on the field more. Ricard, to me, is on the field less. But I do believe in this play concept. I believe that Lamar can execute it, and we can utilize his unbelievable athleticism to put people in conflict by threatening them with the run play here with the running back, or Lamar keeping it behind a lead blocker to the other side. Todd Monken's task will be trying to figure out a way to get effective play action concepts to be utilized with this motion, and I think it's quite easy to do. Let me know what you guys think of the video. If you agree with me about having this concept be a holdover concept from the Greg Roman era. Todd Monken certainly has a ton of experience, but it seems to me, watching his offense in 3 different places, that he's a guy who's willing to grab this concept from somewhere else and add it to his repertoire, add it to his playbook. Lamar can execute it. We certainly got the running backs to do it. Isaiah Likely, I've shown you this video, appears to be a guy who can read it effectively and get out in front of Lamar and help at least screen someone and give Lamar a 2-way go. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you think other people would enjoy the video, please consider grabbing a link and sharing it on social media to help this video get more reach.